Good day. My name is Bruce Alfredson. I'm Vice President of Marketing here at 3Mark Financial. And today we're going to talk about 3 minutes with 3Mark and the topic AG49-A. But before we talk about AG49-A, let's kind of set the stage a little bit so we're all kind of on the same page. And we'll give a little historical perspective on this as well. The ledger, the sales illustrations, the most often used sales piece. Although most carriers provide consumer brochures, we find that they're not utilized very often at the sales process. Lower premiums, higher cash values, higher illustrated income are often a determining factor that agents and clients use to decide which carrier to use. Virtually all carriers offer multiple indexed options. However, we find that most applications coming in use the default allocation, the one the company selected for the illustration system used. Policy performance reviews after the sale don't happen as often as they probably should. And of course, the last one, and perhaps the most important when it comes to this regulation, is that the regulators are focused on protecting the consumer. So let's talk about a bit of history. The Life Illustration Model Regulation was adopted by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners in '95. Before this, carriers could set their own look-back durations and calculations. There really weren't very many carriers offering indexed UL back then, and it was really up to each carrier to decide what the illustrated rate was and what methodology they used to come up with that number. AG49 took place in 2015. The idea behind this was to put all carriers on the same playing field by using the same methodology across all products when it came to talking about the maximum illustrated rate. Shortly after that came out, most product actuaries do, they look for loopholes, they look for advantages, and we ultimately ended up with two camps today. Let's talk about them in these terms. We'll talk about them as simplified or traditional product design, and then we have the multiplier approach, and those are the two camps. And we're not going to talk about specific carriers, but chances are if you're in this space and selling primarily accumulation IUL, you know which your favorite carrier design model might be. So both of these are in compliance with AG49. The multiplier products essentially doubling down on the IUL bet by using additional charges to fund more option investments with the potential for greater earnings. One of the adages of IUL is zero is your hero. You've probably heard this. That's true, but that's not typically what you find in the multiplier approach products, since they've got additional charges that when the market's flat, those charges are still there, but the performance offset is not. So that brings us to AG49-A, which is coming out, as I mentioned earlier, on November 25th. The goal, again, is to bring consistency to crediting methodology within the IUL and reduce confusion for potential buyers. Again, another method to bring everybody back on the same playing field when it comes to illustrated rates and performance. Now that these revisions are finalized, the regulators have spoken, and the largest and loudest takeaways that you should take is that products with multipliers and high cap accounts or other enhancements will no longer be allowed to be illustrated these higher performance numbers. They can still have these allocations, but they won't be able to illustrate them. Participating loan leverage is going to be reduced from 1% to 0.5%, and that's another takeaway from this. And the other one is there's more changes to come, because one of the things that has not been written in but will be coming is more consumer disclosure, so that 45-page illustration may grow some in coming months. So the other good news and the good takeaway is if you sold some high cap or multiplier products that on re-illustrations that can continue to be illustrated, but there just won't be any new sales illustrating those methodologies going forward. So that's it for AG49. The industry has been pretty quiet on this, but I suspect we're going to see a bunch of product revisions in the IOL. And again, this particularly impacts the accumulation products on November 25th. So until our next section of 3 Minutes with Remark, good selling, folks. And don't forget to subscribe to this series and share it with your friends and your colleagues. Bye now.